FX's The Bear is a psychological masterpiece. Even after winning countless awards in the comedy category, it's not a comedy. And believe me, without these psychological aspects, it'd be an absolute mess. The way I see it, the show took its overlying environment of a kitchen and turned it into a psychological thriller. Sometimes even horror. The entire show is built on a foundation of anxiety, which made me think that the real villain of the show is not any of the characters, but time itself.
Burgers, hot dogs, everything on the grill, fire everything right fucking now! Yes.
No matter what the situation is, time is always a big constraint. Time is always running out. This creates a sense of dread and panic among the viewers, and if it was not very clear, they literally put up a huge clock in the wall in season 4. But that's not all. The way they portray the chaos inside the kitchen is nothing short of incredible. It's like a battlefield. There's a clear hierarchical chain of order, like in a military faction, and the chefs are all soldiers engaging in their duty in an environment of heightened stress, chaos, and instability. Anything could go wrong at any given moment. The best example of which was seen in the penultimate episode of season 1 named Review.
Why are you fucking with me? 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 Huh? Get the back to work!
But just the chaos on its own wasn't enough to keep the viewers on edge all the time. The show passively trained the audience to be anxious through repeated stressful events. After a point, we were anticipating fuck-ups. We were waiting for things to go wrong, even if we didn't want them to. It was best evident in Marcus and Richie's solo episodes, Honeydew and Forks. When the character of Luca was first introduced, I thought he'd be an asshole. Turns out I was not alone. Many thought in the same way. But the show managed to trick us. We were waiting for a clash throughout the episode, but it never came. Same with Richie's training in the Ever. It seemed like something could go wrong at any moment, but that never happens. Anxiety is one of the 2 core components of this show, the other being ambition, or to be more specific in this case, obsession. Hollywood, from what we have witnessed, has always found a way to romanticize obsession and ambition, even when they were toxic. The Bear is the latest addition to this list. Apart from anxiety, the primary theme of this show is the ambition of Carmy Berzatto. Carmy was so obsessed with his craft that he let other segments of his life blur out, which is strange because he did not enjoy cooking. He fell out of love with it a long time ago. But he still did it because that's all he can do. Day in and day out, working on new dishes, trying to secure that Michelin star. The sole purpose of his life was to take the Bear towards success. In the process, losing out on his life, sacrificing relationships, ruining every good thing that happens to him. But this is not just because of his ambitions. I'd even say that his obsession with cooking was not about his purpose at all. It's something much deeper and psychological. Cooking to Carmy was a massive coping mechanism, an answer to his brother's suicide. He somehow tried to find the meaning of all these through cooking. That's why he was fixated on being a perfectionist. He pushed people away and chased perfection in the hopes of finding a meaning in Mikey's death. He rejected any external suggestions coming from his partners and tried to do it all alone. He sought control, absolute control over everything, mainly control over his trauma. But when he did rarely reveal his vulnerable side, it was heartbreaking. This controlling nature of Carmy turned him into something he had always hated.
I get it. You have a short man's complex. You can barely reach over this table, right? Is this why you have the tattoos and your cool little scars and you go out and you take your smoke breaks? It's fun, isn't it? But here's the thing. You're terrible at this. You're no good at it. Go faster, motherfucker. Keep going faster. Why are you so slow? Why are you so fucking slow? Why?
The fuck you! Fuck you! It's a fucking shit!
This kickstarts in the season 2 finale where he gets locked inside the refrigerator. It was like a metaphor of him being trapped inside his own mind, even after building one of the best restaurants. That ended with him severing ties with the only thing keeping him sane, and started the process of him turning into an absolute control freak But besides this coping mechanism, he just loved the fucking chaos. He grew up in an abusive and chaotic family, in a very volatile environment. He was used to the chaos and somewhat craved it later on. He worked at many restaurants, but what brought out the best in him was a toxic boss with a toxic environment at the height of stress. Because in a fucked up way, it felt like home to him. It was like he belonged there. This can be better understood through the episode named Fishes, the most important episode of the show. An episode that initially seemed like a filler flashback turned out to be a fucking volcano. It started out as a nice, cozy, family Christmas dinner. But by the end, it was a burst of emotions.
Do you know how much I fucking hate?
The key character of this episode was Carmy's mother, Donna Berzatto. Donna was definitely suffering from some serious mental health problem, likely narcissism, probably also some bipolar identity disorder or shit like that. Her emotional arc throughout the course of the episode felt like watching a shipwreck. The episode opened with a critique on her attitude. And right from the cooking scene, we could see her tantrums.
And did you need
The kitchen of the Berzatto household carried a very similar vibe with the kitchen of the bear.
everything on the grill, fire everything right
A hierarchical system, an abusive leader, time running out, and lots of chaos.
right here.
Carmy inherited and internalized this instability. But his mother alone is not the sole cause for all his mental issues. As mentioned earlier, it's the entire fucking family. They are all nuts. The dinner table sequence is probably one of the greatest dinner sequences I have ever witnessed. Also, the entire last 15 minutes of the episode could be termed as a horror scene, and it won't be wrong. The blowout between Mikey and Uncle Lee, brilliantly portrayed by Jon Bernthal and Bob fucking Odenkirk, followed by the eruption of Donna, made this episode so masterful. And right when you think it can't get any worse than this, it gets worse. After this episode, we could finally understand and empathize with Carmy. He stays away from his family to avoid all the chaos. He comes back for one day, and shit hits the fans. The only bear who had a seemingly good relationship with their mother was Mikey, and he killed himself. This distanced Carmy and Natalie from their mother, but she continued to have a haunting presence over their lives. Even though she was not dead, she became like a ghost. Fortunately, it was not the tragic ending they gave to her. She returned in the season 2 finale and was visibly guilty for her impact in her children's lives and their mental health. In season 3, she made amends with Natalie in the episode named Ice Chips. It was a beautiful episode, one of the best of season 3. Then finally in season 4, we got the much-needed reconciliation between her and Carmy, which is very interesting to me because, you see, Carmy has become his mother. There are a lot of similarities when he was in his control freak era, but especially now when he feels guilty and is trying to fix everything. He realized that he doesn't need to cook anymore. He decided to walk away from the bear. He made reconciliations with Sydney, Claire, Richie, Natalie, and even his mother. So, you could say the Berzattos did really redeem themselves by the end. But this isn't enough. The show is not just about the Berzattos. It's about all the bears. And I think you'd find the true essence of the whole show buried in one of the bears. That's not Carmy or any other Berzatto. To me, it's Richie Jaramovich, a character who was initially introduced as kind of a douchebag and served the purpose of comedic relief, has now attained the label of fan favorite. We learned in the Fishes episode that Richie had his life pretty well figured out. But by the time we meet him in season 1, he was a shit show. His divorce and Mikey's suicide really fucked him up mentally. But he didn't give up. He clung on to the beef, like his only purpose in life now was to run that restaurant. He didn't want to let it go. So when the beef finally shuts down, Richie hits the lowest point of his life. He was depressed, suffering from a lack of purpose, and was totally lost. His wife was marrying again. His daughter thought he was very lonely. And amidst all of this shit, Carmy sent him to one of the city's biggest restaurants for training, where his task was to clean forks. He saw that job as something very below him. He thought Carmy was messing with him. But then something beautiful happened. Richie comes to realize that the people working in this top-tier restaurant aren't working for any personal gains. They cared for the customers above anything else. Their purpose wasn't to attain any goal. Their purpose lied in serving others. At this point, Richie steps up and becomes the man. He lets go of his ego and re-engages in his life with a newfound sense of purpose, a purpose that revolved around serving others. From this point onwards, whenever we see Richie, he is wearing this suit. I think it's like a piece of armor to him. It gives him the much-needed confidence and brings out his very best. But that was not a happy ending for him. He got into a huge fight with Carmy. The bear was still failing. Most importantly, he was scared of losing his loved ones. He was afraid that he wouldn't be a part of his daughter's life anymore. At this moment, I realized there's a third core component of this show, alongside anxiety and ambition. It's family. It was a family that messed it all up in the first place, the reason behind every trauma in this show. And now it's the sense of family again, bringing everyone together. Richie manages to defeat his inner demons and redeems himself. He finally gets all his closures. With his daughter, with Carmy, with the bear, also probably with Mikey's death. And he finds himself to be the link between this new family.
I think I'm the sand, man.
Here we go. Here we go, guys. Bears on 3. 1, 2. Bear! 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 Okay. Got it?